I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we're right on time here at 9 a.m. Just first off, any declarations of interest? None? Okay. And call for the approval of the agenda. If I can get a mover and second to approve the agenda. Commissioner Lacapara and Commissioner Insina. All in favor? None opposed? All right. Land acknowledgement. The Niagara Parks Commission wishes to acknowledge and honor the lands along the Niagara River corridor as the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples. In both spirit and partnership, we recognize and thank the Six Nations of the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, of the Anishinaabe, the Neutral Nation, and all who provided stewardship of these lands over the way. And Darla, if I can get you please to read aloud the names of those present who are on the table and on the phone.
Yes. Commissioner April Cotton, Commissioner Spencer DeWolf, Commissioner Natasha DiCienzo, Commissioner Tom Insina, Commissioner Dan Lacapura, Commissioner Ted Salsi, joining via Zoom, Commissioner Irwin Weens, Chief Operating Officer Marcelo Grosso, Chief Executive Officer David Adames, Vice Chair Graham Coveney.
Thank you, Darla. And next going to be the chair's opening remarks. I'll read them again. Thanks again, Katie, for preparing. You always do such a great job. So looking back at the first few weeks since our August meeting on Saturday and Sunday, August 10th and 11th, we hosted another successful battle reenactment weekend at Old Ferry, the largest battle reenactment in Canada. Hundreds of reenactors travel across North America to participate in this annual event. On August 24th, Chair Gale and CEO David Adames led a tour of Niagara Parks Power Station for a group of 25 Consul Generals from the Consular Corps in Toronto. The tour facilitated through the Niagara Economic Development Team, and the group also attended the World Rowing Championships Nations dinner that evening. On Sunday, August 25th, Chair Gale attended the Sri Krishna Janmashtami celebration at Oaks Garden Theatre. On Wednesday, August 28th, we partnered with Susanna Goshko of the British High Commissioner to Canada and Consul General Fuzia Yunus to host a spectacular reception at the Table Rock to celebrate the 60th diamond season of the Red Arrows. Both Chair Gale and Mayor Diodati spoke at the event, and I know there were some commissioners also there in attendance as well. The Red Arrows were scheduled to do a flyover the falls that evening, however, it was canceled due to weather. Despite that, the event was a great success and very well attended. A big thank you to everyone involved in the planning and execution of that event at Table Rock. Labor Day weekend marked the final long weekend of the summer season, and once again, we saw strong visitation, with Sunday being the busiest, followed closely by Saturday. In keeping with our holiday road closure schedule, the Niagara Parkway and Clifton Hill were closed to vehicular traffic both Saturday and Sunday evening, beginning at 7 p.m. These road closures helped to increase safety for pedestrians and cut down on traffic and congestion by the falls during visitation weekends. Labor Day was also the final day of operations for our Niagara's Fury 4D attraction at Table Rock Center. This attraction opened in 2008 and has since reached the end of its life cycle due to the aging technology. Construction is now officially beginning to prepare for a new attraction set to open in the summer of 2025. A series of communications were sent out about this project, including our call for volunteers to participate in the filming for the new attraction on certain dates. Commissioners should have also received information about this as well. And Commissioner Lacapra, I think you're being an extra, aren't you? Aren't you?
Why is everybody saying that? That's not the
Yeah.
issue.
Effective September 3rd, Niagara Parks officially took over the operation of the Wego Blue Line, and we now operate both the Wego Green Line and the Blue Lines, ensuring guests have access to an integrated public transit system in the destination. Our team worked with the Niagara Transit Commission in the rollout of these changes to help ensure a smooth transition. Tomorrow, Niagara Parks is hosting a launch event for a new book entitled Landscape of the Nations, Beyond the Mist, which we'll hear more about in just a moment during our first presentation. Continuing on, as part of our protocol, we do not permit questions of the public during these meeting proceedings. However, questions are always welcome and can be submitted through our Guest Services Center by email to info@niagaraparks.com. These will be passed on to the lovely Darla, who will always ensure that a response is provided. In addition to in-person meetings, public sessions are also recorded and made available on our website, along with the presentation files and relevant reports. So that is the chair's opening remarks. Moving on to item 1.6, approval of draft minutes. If there are any errors or omissions, anybody noticed? No, we're good? Okay, so we'll get a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes. So Commissioner Cotton and Commissioner Celsi, all in favor? Not opposed? Mr. Diodati's at the table, just to note there. Okay. Presentations, your Landscape of the Nations, Beyond the Mist book launch. I'm going to call upon Tim Johnson, Senior Advisor for Heritage and Legacy, to provide a presentation. And yeah, and I'm also going to point out that Tim's also one of the authors of this book, so yeah, thanks for being here.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. We're going to try to get through about 3 years of very hard work in about 10 minutes. But Jim Hill, our Niagara Parks historian, tells me that the last time Niagara Parks published a book was 1985. So this is really quite a significant new leap forward. And of course, it grows from grows out of the work that we've been doing strategically around the Landscape of Nations Memorial in Queenston Heights Park. So we'll run through this fairly quickly. There's the cover. I think you've all got copies of the book today. And then myself and Rick Hill are the editors of the publication. Rick and I have go back some 40 years in our work together. And I spent quite a bit of time at the Smithsonian Institution and directed the publication of at least a dozen books during my tenure there. And Rick as well preceded me to the Smithsonian and also published a number of books. These are just a couple of examples. We can flip through these slides. Children's books as well, cookbooks. And so Landscape of Nations is sort of this book is sort of the third part of a strategy that we've had going back some 15 years. Started with the memorial, then it led to the development of 10 essential understandings around Indigenous education, tied into the Ontario curriculum. Those were all key concepts. The book puts the meat on those concepts, the actual information and knowledge and history, puts it on that, so it completes that triptych. Okay, go on. So why do great public institutions publish books? Well, for several reasons. The dissemination of knowledge, preservation of research, educational mission, enhancing reputation. Publishing high-quality books can enhance an institution's reputation and prestige. Next slide. Fostering collaboration. What's interesting about a project like this is we've actually involved dozens and dozens of people in producing this. So we talk about always wanting to connect the park to community and to other organizations. Doing work like this is a manifestation of that sort of principle or activity. So we've worked with all kinds of institutions on getting images, information. Public engagement, again, is sort of related to that. Funding and support. The partner organization working with Niagara Parks was Plenty Canada. And Plenty Canada was able to raise funds as an Indigenous organization to help support the production of the book. So these kind of things work out very well. And promoting institutional goals. Okay. So the book draws on the meta-narratives of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe cultures, archaeological data, British Indian Department records, private correspondence, testimony, proclamations, memoirs, and photographs and objects from the collections of numerous museums, libraries, and archives to illuminate Niagara's Indigenous history and how things got to be the way they are, concerning the oscillating relations between Canada and the original peoples and nations who helped secure its existence. Major message in that, and it's part of really reflecting this significant history that Niagara Parks holds within its assets. All right. So here's the contents. We have 17 authors. These folks represent the most knowledgeable. scholars who know about indigenous history in the area, the leading archaeologists who've done studies along the Niagara region, knowledge holders, and so forth, and artists. Okay? Beautiful, getting rights and permissions to some of the beautiful artwork in this book took a lot of time. So the essays were one part. The other part was really making this a general interest reader. It's a beautiful book with a lot of historical imagery. That's a great piece by Robert Griffin, and perfectly aligned with the thematic of the book title. Okay, so we're going to move sort of quickly. Most of you know this guy here. Okay, we'll keep going. And then I'm just going to take you very quickly through the arc of how we've structured the chapters. So we begin with the oral traditions, the meta-narratives of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples around Niagara Falls and how the cultures emerged in association with the geological features of the land here. Okay? Another beautiful painting by Arnold Jacobs, piece by Rick. Keep going. We're going to flick through these pretty quickly. Then we dig deeply into the archaeology, because that's the evidence of the primacy of indigenous peoples here in the Niagara region. It goes back 13,000 years, a blood sample on a point that was used to kill a woolly mammoth near Hamilton along the Red Hill Creek Valley area is one of the key objects of evidence that takes us back 13,000 years. And then there's tons of material all up and down the Niagara River corridor on what is now Parks Land, which is really fascinating. So we've gone through all of this with the archaeology. Next. Then the first encounters with Europeans, which was the neutral nation. The neutral nation peoples occupied the Niagara Peninsula at the time of contact with Europeans. We have an in-depth story here by Ron Dale. Next. Beautiful photography. One of the things we wanted to do with the book is to have this cinematic view, so that when you open certain spreads, you just get this beautiful cinematic imagery. Great shot by Mark Zelinsky. Then into some of the earlier diplomatic relations that emerged among the Haudenosaunee and the British Crown by Paul Williams, who's one of the most renowned land claim lawyers currently today. 1764 Treaty of Niagara. Very important history here, again, this Niagara indigenous history. The coin that was struck for that treaty. Okay. Then we talk about wampum belts and the two-row wampum, really putting more understanding out there about how the two-row wampum began as a symbol. A lot of people thought it was associated with a treaty in 1613. It was not. That treaty is now considered by scholars to be a fraud. However, we can go to the next one. The two-row wampum, nevertheless, is a metaphorical sort of message that was really held closely by Haudenosaunee people, still came forward, and it remains a very important symbol of our cultures working together, not in opposition. Okay, next. Then Carl Benn, again, one of the leading scholars on indigenous history and the War of 1812, and John Norton, delivered two really major essays for us on the American Revolutionary War period. Next. There's the proclamation by King George III, the Royal Proclamation of 1763. Okay. And then he did a second piece on the multiple wars of 1812, sort of how everything sort of shaped out and the indigenous involvement in the War of 1812. Next. And again, beautiful paintings that we incorporated into this work and got the rights and permissions for. And then we get into some nuanced stuff. Richard Merritt, who is my co-chair in the Development of Landscape of Nations Memorial. I'm not sure how much time I've got. Next. One of the early artworks on that. We'll just keep rolling. Richard also did a piece for us on Brock's Monument, the Battle of Queenston Heights and Lundy's Lane, filling out some of the information about those sites and those events. Another beautiful cinematic spread. This is like National Geographic style photography. This is just incredible. Then Josh Manitowabi, who's a professor at Brock University, on who are the Anishinaabe people. Next. Ellen Corbier, Also a PhD, Anishinaabe himself, on Chief Shingwagontz, who was a participant on the Anishinaabe side in the War of 1812. Again, amazing artwork that we were able to get access to. Darren Waibenga, he's a historian for the Mississauga of the Credit, talking about the role of the Mississauga people in the War of 1812. There's an image of their powwow. Powwows also honor veterans. So one of the functions of a powwow is to honor veterans, so this is appropriate. Richard Merritt on the early Indigenous presence in Niagara Lake. One of the things that's fascinating is that during that early period of engagement with the Crown, Indigenous people and British people intermarried, right? And so there's a legacy of shared heritage that comes forward. Next. And these are some of the houses that had families with shared heritage right in Niagara on the Lake. They're all historic homes. Then we do a piece on the Maid of the Mist and the Thunder Beams and how that cultural story came forward. And then Rick Hill did this amazing section that fills in a lot of the various history from deep past through to the contemporary times, vignettes of historic figures, indigenous figures, that really fills out a lot of understanding of the significance of this region. And we'll just clip through some of these. Memorial Secord, the First Nations Peace Monument, the beadworking, Tuscarora beadworking along Niagara Falls was once a big thing. Here's some beautiful shots of that beadwork created for the tourist trade. Border crossing issues and rights are a major concern. And then throughout the whole process here, again, this is a Niagara Parks book, we wanted to weave everything together with Niagara Parks. So Travis Hill and Jim Hill did a piece for us that showed us these heritage sites and locations related to Indigenous history up and down the Niagara River corridor. So Chris Giles and the team and the communications did a map for us that outlines each of these locations. And we go through them from Old Fort Erie through to the power station, displays there, through the Chippewa battlefield and memorial. That's another beautiful shot, by the way. And of course, what started it all, the Landscape of Nations memorial, captured some of that. And then to wrap the book up, we wanted to make sure that we had expressions by Indigenous peoples who've lived within the area for a long time, who've made contributions. So this is Jennifer Dockstader telling us her story. Okay. And then Vince Schiffer, just on the other side of the border here, right over here, in fact, the Tuscarora Nation, talking about the Tuscarora people. Again, they have a beautiful public artwork on that side as well, again related to 1812 history. And then we wrap up with a conversation with Carl Dockstader. Carl is currently Indigenous Cultural Advisor for Niagara College and doing some great work. He's also a really talented digital artist. And so it was an opportunity for us to kind of wrap up and close the book with his artwork that accompanies his conversation here. So if we go through, there's actually several pages where you see his artwork, but the very last one is his interpretation of the Maid of the Mist. So it kind of wraps everything up. We go next. And then just to give you an indication of how much information is embedded in the book, 256 pages, the index is 9 pages long. So there's a lot of information that's been identified in the book. And so for Niagara Parks, the book's a manifestation or aspiration as we now lean into place-based learning. And we're really looking at really bringing forward the remarkable history lessons that are embedded within Niagara Parks locations and destinations. So that's sort of a new thing we're working on with the educational team that's coming together for all of this. Yeah, and we talk about Niagara Parks as being a living park that aims to enhance biodiversity, promote environmental education, and foster a deeper connection between people, their history, and nature. Yep, and just to wrap up, is there any more? And they're at the end. So it was kind of interesting the way the photo shoot worked out, just to close out. We have the cover. This is Santee Smith, by the way, from Six Nations. She's a renowned choreographer and dancer, and she's also chancellor of McMaster University. So she came down. We got a great shot this way. She turned, and it just became a logical front cover, back cover. Yeah. So there it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Justin, for the presentation. Yeah, pretty exciting book, and I believe, is there a book for the commissioners in the back? Is that correct? Okay. All right, thank you. Just ask for a mover and a second to receive the presentation for information. Mr. Wolf, Commissioner Cotton. All in favor? All right, thank you. Moving on to item 2.2, I'm going to call on David Ames, and David, just give us a presentation. Business update.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Great presentation, Tim. Thanks so much for all the hard work that went on that book, as you said, for over 3 years, authoring and shepherding and stewarding that book. So thank you so much. We're all looking forward to the book launch tomorrow. I know Commissioner Salsi will be there as well to represent the Commission. So as we have tradition in our public meetings, the update on our last month of key activities across Niagara Parks, and we always begin the slides talking about our mandate in terms of being the stewards of the 56-kilometer Niagara River corridor. That is our reason for being. And again, we see the map, and of course Tim pointed that out in a version of this in the book as well. This is a map that we use in an awful lot of our promotions to promote all those front-facing visitor experiences we have along the corridor. The next slide. In terms of our origin, going back to 1885, and of course our dual mandate of environmental and cultural stewardship and supporting tourism, operational enterprise of the Ontario Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming, and directed by the 12-member commission. We'll go next slide. In terms of funding and operations, so this year we did peak at around 1,800 headcount, so a major employer in the Niagara region. Payroll will be approaching $70 million this year. So again, that's providing livelihood for those 1,800 folks who work for us, and they're doing a great job this year. I hope that everything from the horticulture treatment that you see in Queen Victoria Park and across the corridor to operating our revenue-producing operations and all the repairs and maintenance and capital projects that are going on is a true team effort to get to that point. Next slide. So some highlights, and I know Vice Chair Coveney spoke about some of these items in his opening remarks, but a very special reception working with the British Consulate and hosting an anniversary to celebrate, or an event rather, to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Red Arrows. They had the makeup flight yesterday at 2:55 p.m. I know there have been some photos of that over the falls. A spectacular afternoon for that event. The day of the reception, unfortunately, it was very low cloud cover, particularly in Toronto, where they were going to take off and land. So that precluded their flight. But that aside, it was a wonderful and warm reception, and also celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. So next slide. In terms of a new exhibition, temporary exhibition of the Butterfly Conservatory, working with former astronaut Roberta Bondar, and her photography, that is now in the gallery space at the Butterfly Conservatory, open on August 31st, and will be running through to December the 8th. And that is included with the admission to the Butterfly Conservatory. So a value add, but lots of, again, nature. It's really focused on nature and conservation. The next slide. Closure of one of our attractions. We've shared this information in the past, but Labor Day was the last day of operation. After 17 years, Niagara's Fury did wrap up. We are now transitioning to the new Flying Theater attraction. So demolition is now underway. Construction will then start. Concurrently, we're working on production. We'll talk about that in just a moment as well. So it's, again, cross-department team effort to convert the former Niagara Fury into the new attraction. The next slide. So the filming, the production side of the new attraction, we are looking for extras, so we are promoting that. And again, through our website, through our guest services center, members of the public who may be watching this production can sign up as a part of that. We'll also be involving commissioners, so more information will be coming out about that as well. So we'll be filming late September for the summer scenes, in October for fall scenes, and then December and January for winter scenes. Next slide. So WeGo changes. As the commission well knows, Niagara Parks did take on the operation of the Blue Line effective September 3rd, a very smooth transition. So of course we're gathering customer feedback on that transition and update accordingly. But we are operating both the Green Line and the Blue Line to provide that very important guest service in Niagara Falls, and also the connection to Niagara on the Lake via the North Niagara Parkway. Next slide. Golf season is in full swing. Couldn't resist that one. And this is also a month where we have an awful lot of tournaments, an awful lot of that stay and play packaging, working with hotel partners in Niagara Falls. Playing conditions are very good. One of the tournaments that we did highlight here in the upper left, the Rankin tournament at Legends back in August, that supports cancer care in Niagara, a very successful fundraising event. Rankin did share with us that they raised over $125,000, and that goes back into community. So again, that was their first time they had brought that tournament to Legends, and that was a double shotgun. The last bullet point, very interesting for some of us who remember Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper played golf at Legends prior to a show at one of at the casino stage. So Alice Cooper played with Curtis LaBelle, our director of golf operations. The next slide. Continuing with the updates here, I think we just wanted to say here that the Golf Academy remains very busy. Our all access customers, we sold out those all access opportunities, and we'll be putting those on sale later this fall for 2025. The next slide. In terms of our sales team updates, there's some data in terms of the number of wedding ceremonies and receptions we held across Niagara Parks since our last gathering. We also now have the wedding option at McFarland. So for those smaller opportunities, so McFarland with a tea room, and we've had a few weddings there already. Next slide. This is interesting. The new popcorn wagon at Table Rock, located on the north side of the parkway, so looking more like a Victorian era or maybe Edwardian era popcorn wagon. So we sell popcorn, soft serve ice cream, and refreshments out of that location. And that's been very popular as well since that opened this summer. That's right. You got it.
You may just put how much in sales we did in one day or whatever.
Yeah, actually, the Labor Day weekend we sold $20,000 worth of popcorn. So just imagine, popcorn. Continuing our science, technology, engineering, and math education at the Niagara Parks Power Station, we did add these new plasma globes at the power station in addition to the Tesla coil that was added this year. So that's been a nice family attraction within the attraction. The digital photo capture services, so one of our other tenants, the photo capture, they've been upgrading the guest experience, the guest offering with going video screens as opposed to green screens. So they won that competitive bid back in January to launch a new contract. So they're investing in that guest experience with those video screens at a variety of locations. The next slide. The Niagara Parks Police Service, working with the Youth and Policing Initiative along with Niagara Regional Police, welcomed a number of partners to Niagara Parks. You can see Chief Forcier in front of the Niagara Parks Power Station here. So the Indigenous Police Chiefs of Ontario, the Anishinaabe Police Service, and the Treaty 3 Police were all there as well. So next slide. Park improvement updates, and this is some bread and butter improvements that we're making across the parkway. Things like the new picnic tables in our pavilions, so we're catching up on some of our repairs and maintenance, some of those things that mean a lot to visitors who come in for their family reunions, their family picnics in our pavilions in our public parks. Also at the marina, the Millers Creek Marina, just again repairs and maintenance going on that you can see on the right-hand picture. Next slide. Tree planting program. You recall that we had Darby McGrath and Ian Potter from the Vineland Research Center here at the last meeting. So we continue to implement that MOU. We're doing more soil analysis across the 56-kilometer corridor. And again, there are a variety of environments along that corridor, including different soil types. So as we do our tree planting initiatives, we want to make sure, and other things, we want to make sure that we're understanding the conditions that we're dealing with. So in this case, over 100 soil samples from 7 future planting locations were collected, and that analysis is underway. Next slide. The tennis and pickleball courts, construction will start the week of September 25th, so it'll be demolition. Base work will happen this year, and final finishing will happen in the spring to prepare for a June 2025 opening. So it'll be 4 tennis courts, 4 pickleball courts, and we'll have a report to our Finance Audit Committee in October about the operating model for those courts. And again, there's been tennis in Queenston Heights Park for about 100 years. So it's an opportunity to refresh and again catch up on that deferred maintenance that we have. Also, you can also see some other projects like resurfacing the recreation trail from pedestrian bridge number 34 around line 3 to south of Service Road 61 in Niagara on the Lake. Just a couple of examples there. Next slide. Central Parks projects, the public washroom driveway up to the what we call the Old Yards washrooms. Again, that road is way past its life cycle, so refreshing the trails in that roadway leading into those public washrooms. More recreation trail work, and also the Table Rock redevelopment, redoing the fire exit on the north side. So some important infrastructure work there. Next slide. Infrastructure repairs at Dufferin Islands. This is important electrical repair work. One of our main feeds coming into Niagara Parks and Queen Victoria Park comes through Dufferin Islands. So that work, you've probably seen the partial closures of Duff as the team's been working away on that. Next slide. And South Parkway projects, quite a bit of paving on the parkway, service road work, rec trail work as well. So you can see north, south, and central. Lots of repairs and maintenance and capital projects this fall. Next slide. Is that it? So open for question and answer. Thanks, Charlie.
Go ahead, Commissioner McBurn.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Just going back to the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. First of all, are we going to charge for play? Second of all, are we going to have a pro shop there that will take in the funds? More important than that is to supply tennis equipment, pickleball equipment on a rental basis, because not everybody that comes to Niagara Falls will have their equipment with them.
Right. So through the vice chair, yes, yes, and yes. Yes, there'll be some modest charges. Laura Pingway is putting together the financials on that. Will come to the Finance Audit Committee and Commission next month. But again, we say modest so that we can recoup costs to keep the maintenance of those courts up to snuff. We will be reopening what used to be called the Brock General Store in the park, which is located adjacent or in proximity to the courts. We'll have a point person staffing during the late spring, summer, and early fall to manage access to both the tennis and pickleball courts. We will have equipment for rent in that store, pickleball and tennis. We also have an online way to book the courts. So there'll be, I think, a lot of early morning play by local residents, so we don't necessarily need to staff it, so it can be accessed by an online booking portal. But for our visitors coming in, particularly weekends and afternoons, we'll have staffing in place for that. But the rentals will absolutely be available through what's called the General Brock Store. And we can also sell refreshments there as well.
This is a follow-up question. Would we have someone at that store that would be able to sell passes for all the other attractions?
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely. We'll set up a point of sale there. We can sell the passes.
Okay. Commissioner Celsi.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, through you, your CEO. For the sake of the public, could you confirm the arrangements on the blue line in respect of physically where they can catch that blue line contact, and then the ticketing and how the cross-ticketing might work, or the one ticket that works for our entire system?
So through the vice chair, I'm going to ask Marcel Gross, our Chief Operating Officer, to come up to speak to that, because you'll know the detail for that. So do you want to come to the mic? It's being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So through the chair, so there is one ticket that covers the blue and the green line. The connection does connect to the city transit system or Niagara Regional Transit. So if you're coming from Lundy's Lane, there is a 2-ticket system. You'd have to take the NRT ticket as well as buy the WeGo ticket. So this is kind of our preliminary or first run at it for the next few months. But the plan is we'll continue to make improvements as we're receiving the feedback, as David said. So in terms of any other questions that you had, just in terms of the hub that we pointed out, there's really one connection point between the red line and then where we pick up at the blue line where the Parks picks up for the green line. So other than that, did you have another question?
I think the point was that the pickup or the hub will be at Main and Ferry, is that correct, for the blue line?
No, it's at the
Ramada.
The Ramada, yeah.
Yeah.
It's at the Ramada. That is the main, that is the hub. That's the pickup point.
Okay, and the Ramada on Lundy's Lane or the Ramada down by the falls?
No, down by the falls.
Okay, and then the other point is the purchase of a ticket on the blue line, does it give them any consideration for traveling through the park on like a day pass type ticket that you usually sell as well?
Yeah, so we still have our combination passes that they could purchase, so they could go through all of our sites. But if you buy just a WeGo ticket alone, it will get you from that hub throughout the entire green line, so from end to end in the park. Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Dinardi, do you have a question?
So back to the tennis and pickleball. The first question is, obviously, some kids like to play pickup hockey and whatnot on the court. So just wondering if we're going to keep an eye, because we're spending an awful lot of money. Excuse me. And to that point, taken off of Commissioner LeCabrera's point, have we ever thought about, like, we used to rent cross-country skis. We used to do it at a Whirlpool golf course, which now I know they put a lot of investment in the golf course, but have they ever thought about doing that at Queenston Heights? We used to have cross-country rentals available. I just thought it's another set of eyes down there keeping an eye on the courts, but didn't know if we ever looked at getting back into that future.
So through the vice chair, the courts will be fenced, and there'll be access via either a key fob or a passcode or the staff member working there. So the access will be monitored. It will be accessed by folks who are playing tennis or pickleball to protect the infrastructure, to protect the asset. So we don't want to see other activity going on those courts because they could get damaged otherwise. We could look at other seasonal rentals. I think the challenge we've got right now is that the lack of snow. We think of last 2 winters, but last winter in particular, it was non-existent. So it typically is a little quieter out there. But back to the point where the courts will be absolutely all the courts will be fenced.
Any other questions? Okay. Just gonna ask for a mover and a second to receive the presentation for information. Commissioner Dinardi, Commissioner LeCabrera, all in favor? All right. Item from the, number 3, item from the Property Infrastructure Committee. I'm just gonna ask for a mover and second to approve the report respecting Smuggler's Cove Boat Club license agreement renewal. Go ahead, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Commissioner Cienzo and Commissioner Celsi, seconder. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Item number 4, any other business? No other business, that's good. Date of the next meeting. So the next meeting, again, probably will be Thursday, October 10th, 9 a.m. right here at School of Horticulture. And that is everything for the public meeting. So just a motion to move into a closed session. So if I can ask for a mover and seconder. Commissioner DeWolf, Commissioner LeCabrera, all in favor? Carried. All right. Thank you.